We were expecting the House to return to D.C. Since they haven't been able to work out some way to conduct their business without physically being there. I mean, that's impossible. How could anyone possibly come up with something like that? So they haven't. So they were going to come back, but now they announced that apparently they're not going to. House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer made the announcement Tuesday morning, citing advice from the Capitol physician and a continuing increase in coronavirus cases in the Washington, D.C. area. Journalist Haley Bird provided a little bit more details. He said that the attending physicians points that the numbers in DC are still going up and the surrounding area is a hotspot, as well as the fact that the next coronavirus relief package will not be ready to be considered next week. All of that contributed to the decision. So it turns out that even if they had been in DC, they weren't ready to do anything this week. I mean, after all, Jordan, they've only had, almost a month since the last big bill to put something together. How can we expect them to be ready on such short notice?
Right. I think this represents this lack of urgency from Congress in getting back, or even just finding new ways to deliberate and vote. I mean, you could have like distance remote voting. So many businesses. We're doing this now in a completely different way. You're doing this all at home. Like people are using Zoom in different ways. There's just, if Congress really wanted to, they would find a way to do distance voting or remote voting, things like that. But this lack of urgency in general reflects this kind of divide between the ruling class and just the general public. Mm-hmm. We had this this rapid call to arms to help small businesses, and we saw money going to places like Ruth Chris Steakhouse and the Lakers, and some businesses gave the money back, but just like that was the immediate outcome of Congress's small business relief efforts. And comparing that to the paltry $1,200 that some people got, just again reflects this class divide between the ruling class and the general public. And I think it's shameful that we're in this situation, because people are now forced into this situation where they have to choose between going broke or going into an unsafe working environment, and that's not fair. Those shouldn't be the only two choices. Congress and the government should just step in with a progressive policy reform that would help people stay afloat in this trying time, the way so many other countries around the world are doing, so people don't have to choose between literally life and death.
Yeah, and whatever it is that the Democratic Party would say is driving their strategy, obviously a little bit of his concerns that Mitch McConnell is going to be unlikely to go down certain roads. I would say make a little bit of public pressure, make them actually hurt if they're going to be making the entire federal government response totally designed to benefit the people who were doing incredibly well before this pandemic, are certainly going to become more rich as a result of it. I mean, the upcoming housing crash that we're going to have when people's mortgages come due in a couple of months is going to lead to the same sort of accumulation of wealth that the last one did. Do that. There's no urgency whatsoever. They're so I tweeted yesterday, by the way, how many members of the House of Representatives do you think are nervous about their ability to pay their rent in a couple days? And the point was that they're not, and they're going to be fine. None of them, they might have more, one might have more empathy than another or something like that, but they're not experiencing it the way we are. Some people seem to miss the point and responded, yeah, what about the homeless? And no, that's what I'm trying to say, is that these are the sorts of people that are being ignored, you person on Twitter. But anyway, they're acting like it's not a big priority, that they've had weeks to put together something to go in addition to the $1,200. I've got an easy idea. $1,200 more dollars? That's not enough, but it's better than zero. Probably easy to write that legislation when you can literally copy and paste it from the last time, but they're acting like it's difficult. And the issue is that the House is not returning, okay? And even if they did, they wouldn't be ready to do something legislative for a week. But the Senate is returning, and this means that Mitch McConnell is now going to have a week to put together what his priorities are, to try to sort of set the stage for what this next bill is going to be about. And here's something that Josh Marshall tweeted. Apparently, Mitch McConnell says his top priority for the next legislation is immunity for companies who get sued by employers or customers for giving them COVID. That's the priority. Is again, corporations, it's protecting them from liability when, through the advocacy mainly of the Republican Party, businesses are going to reopen earlier than they should. People are going to get coronavirus. They're going to die as a result of it. We want to make sure that those businesses don't face any sort of liability over that. That's the priority of the party that's going to be determining what this next legislation looks like.
Yeah, and to contrast that, I saw a headline yesterday that Chuck Schumer in the next relief package is going to fight to get Trump's name off of the checks. And think about that. Like, how many people are actually going to be receiving these checks? Probably a slim minority of the recipients, right? Because most people are going to get direct deposit. So Chuck Schumer's out there saying, no, we got to fight for this optics issue. We can't have Trump's name on the checks. People are already like just jokingly calling them Trump bucks. Like, that ship has sailed. Sorry, it's gone. Like, you're not gonna just like win this battle. But to focus on that is just some like meaningless like virtue signaling, really. So like, why not fight for something like, UBI? Why not fight for something to contrast and do a stark pro-worker contrast when you have Mitch McConnell out there saying, no, you can't sue these businesses? I really don't understand the decision making other than it's just they're beholden to corporate interests at the end of the day. Yeah. Both parties are.
Yeah. How about this? How about a compromise? Okay, because I don't want this to be used for propaganda effectively. So how about this? We put the best representatives we can come up with together in charge of both the messaging around the Democratic Party's response to the crisis, but also shaping the legislation. So you have people like Rashida and AOC and Ilhan Omar and stuff like that. You get immediate rent relief. You get not just putting off having to pay your mortgage for 3 months and then you have to pay 4 months all at once, but something substantive where we help people with that. We get an ongoing UBI. And then at the end of that, also in the bill, he can't sign the checks. How about that? Not just have it be Chuck Schumer pop his head up after 2 weeks of doing jackass and say, I've got an idea. No signatures from Trumpy. How about that be the 12th thing or the 20th thing that you do as a little icing on the cake? How about that? I think everybody could be happy.
Right. It's just that he's focused on that. Like, when people are like, losing relatives, just shows like how out of touch he is. And like, people who care about that as like a primary concern. Like, sure, if Trump wants to do that, who cares? Like I said, people are calling them Trump bucks like jokingly anyway. It's kind of like the Streisand effect. Like, if you try to eliminate this or erase this, it's only going to magnify it. So it's absolutely futile. But like, again, it shows like just completely distorted priorities.
Yeah, 100%. Oh God, and so frustrating. And honestly, like, I mean, I guess at least Schumer will be in DC. That's something. Like, get a Discord channel and invite the members of the House of Representatives to it. Honestly, let them pick their own avatar. I don't care. They can chat. They can share memes, and they can also vote. Canada's meeting right now, their legislature. Around the world, governments have figured it out. Brazil has been meeting and all of that. They've got their own issues, but they've figured it out. It is not difficult. I played Jackbox games with my family over the weekend. We made it happen. And rather than sketching, designs for t-shirts, we could have been voting on legislation. I think that DC could figure it out too. They got a lot more resources than my mom does. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.